Thank you very much, Chris. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We'll call this meeting to order, and I will turn to Councillor DeLeo for a land acknowledgement. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome back. We begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that the town of Wasaga Beach is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Tionantadi, Wendat, and is the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and in new relationships and ask for guidance in all we do.
Meg-Wish, Councillor, thank you very much. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank everybody for the warm wishes and the amount of emails and texts and letters and cards that I received while I was away was extremely heartwarming and humbling, quite frankly. So to all the members of the public and our community and to staff, thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it. And thank you to Deputy Mayor Snell for holding down the fort, although I'm looking beside you and we're down 2 councillors, so I don't know what you did, but just kidding. 2 councillors are on vacation and they send their regrets. I hope they're enjoying themselves. So good to be back, good to see everyone's smiling faces and to know that our ship is upright and straight and full steam ahead. So thank you. I'll look to item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interests. I have none before me at this time. If at some point throughout the meeting you feel you have a disclosure, please let us know. Now moving on to item number 3, open forum, which is a part of the meeting where anyone can come forward and speak should they wish to an item on the agenda. I'll just remind people, I know there are some folks here today about the shoreline issue at 18th Street, but this is not the time to speak with that one. So if anyone else has anything they'd like to come forward and speak to, please feel free to do so. And before you do, I'll just ask our clerk and deputy clerk if we have anyone online for that.
Thank you, Worship. I do not have anybody registered.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone in the audience wish to come forward and speak? Seeing nobody, I'll ask a second time. And a third time, seeing nobody. All right, we'll move on then to item number 4 of the agenda, approval of the agenda. It is resolved that the contents of the agenda for September 28th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Belanger and Councillor Ego, all in favor? That motion carries. Moving on to item number 5, deputations, presentations, petitions, and public meetings. We have a few of those today, and the first one is item 5.1, Haymount Investments Limited and Tatum Engineering Limited Reshore Lane Orientation. And we have Julia Redfern and Michael Cullop in attendance to speak to this day today, so I'd ask you folks to come forward, please. Good morning. We'll just ask you to turn the mic on there, the silver button in the center, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair, members of Council. My name is Julia Redfern, and I am a registered professional planner from Bentwood Management, and I'm here today with Michael Kulipp, a professional traffic engineer and Vice President of Tatham Engineering. We are here to discuss concerns from the public respecting pedestrian and vehicular traffic along Shore Lane near 18th Street North. Some of you may recall these concerns that arose at a public meeting earlier this year respecting a 21-unit development proposed by Haymount Investments. Next slide, or can I control it? Yeah. To provide context, Shore Lane is a local road that extends the length of Wasaga Beach and connects 8 provincial park beaches. The right-of-way is referred to in the town's official plan as the Beaches Loop, and it is shared between motor vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, and other modes of active transportation. Shore Lane is owned and maintained by the town throughout the year and includes a variety of residences, from rustic cottages to luxury estates. Today, our study area looks at an approximately 1.7 kilometer stretch of Shore Lane from 21st Street North to 14th Street North, as Shore Lane is discontinuous west of 21st Street, and there is a cul-de-sac to the east of 14th Street. The right-of-way along this stretch of Shore Lane is less than 8 meters wide, with the asphalt being less than 4 meters wide. The local street system is grid-based in this area, and currently traffic is allowed to move in both east and west directions. Here you'll see street views of existing conditions at various points along the Shore Lane study area. The asphalt width at 21st Street, 17th Street, and 14th Street North ranges between about 3 meters to 3.7 meters. Here are the existing conditions along Shore Lane at 18th Street North. The asphalt width is about 3.7 meters wide. You can see the bungalows on the beach cottage rentals on the north side of Shore Lane, whereas the lands owned by Haymount Investments are on the south side of Shore Lane. In preparation of Haymount's development application resubmission, they retained Tatham Engineering to conduct a traffic study and obtain traffic counts during the summer when traffic volumes are typically higher than the rest of the year here. This past August 15th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., 2 to 8 vehicles per direction, 8 to 14 vehicles total in both directions, and 0 to 6 pedestrian crossings were observed. These counts demonstrate that Shore Lane serves little traffic volumes. The town has standards in place to ensure the safety of residents and visitors to cover various aspects such as fire safety regulations and road design specifications. Compliance with safety standards helps prevent accidents and protect public health. The town's standard width for a local right-of-way is 20 meters, of which 8.5 meters is allocated to the road width, each lane being 4.25 meters wide. However, the minimum road width for two-way travel that you will often see in, say, a condominium-style type of development is 6 meters wide. In either instance, the existing condition along Shore Lane is not conducive for two-way vehicular traffic flow, let alone a shared right-of-way with pedestrians and cyclists. As I mentioned earlier, Haymount Investments is proposing to develop land at Mosley Street, Shore Lane, and 18th Street North with 21 units. At the public meeting earlier this year, 8 residents spoke, and almost all of them mentioned existing traffic issues and related safety concerns and how they expect the proposal will exacerbate the issue. A number of these comments were specific to Shore Lane and how it is simply not wide enough to accommodate additional driveways and vehicles. How in the summer there are lots of visitors and people walking their dogs and cycling, and how in the winter the snowbanks get high and two-way traffic becomes very challenging. We appreciate these comments and acknowledge that the current width of operations concerns of Shore Lane respects an existing condition. Here you will see a 3D model of the proposed development along Shore Lane amid the existing development to depict potential future scale. The proposed development conforms with technical guidelines respecting corner clearances and driveway widths, and the projected trips generated are found to have an insignificant impact on the existing road network. While a few of the residents suggested internalizing the driveways by creating a new internal 6-meter wide road, that does not address the existing condition along Shore Lane, nor is it necessary based on the traffic study findings or preferred based on other planning-related critiques. It is recommended that Shore Lane be converted to permit only one-way eastbound vehicular traffic flow from 21st Street North to 14th Street North. This solution will improve existing conditions and alleviate some of the resident concerns that arose from the public planning process. Eastbound traffic flow is preferred for a variety of operational reasons. From a snow plowing perspective, it will result in more efficient operations without the need to yield to oncoming traffic. With vehicles moving in one direction, all waste collection bins will need to be placed on the south side of the road. There will be an overall enhanced space utilization for pedestrians and vehicles, better traffic control, enhanced public safety, and less chance for congestion, which is crucial for emergency responders to act quickly. So our ask of council today is to refer the topic back to Public Works town staff to prepare a recommendation report for your consideration at a future date. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we are here to answer any questions, both Michael and I, you may have. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Julia and Michael. I'll open the floor. Any comments or questions from staff? Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Worship. Certainly this concept was presented to staff several months ago, to which obviously this wasn't on our current work plan or list of priorities to address. So the recommendation was for the consultants and the developer to bring this forward to council for direction to staff. In doing so, resources are limited right now in terms of the timelines. I'm not too sure when the timelines are relative to when you need this report back, but we will be looking to the developer to help offset some of our costs if this is a priority to advance. There's a number of challenges with this concept, but through the course of the report, we will make options available to council with a recommendation. It's not simply vehicular traffic. We need to be mindful of pedestrians and cyclists and contra flow through that corridor. What the line painting and pavement marking would look like, as well as signage, if this was considered among operationally in terms of which is the best movement, eastbound or westbound, and specifically with winter maintenance, which I know our team in Public Works certainly have challenges within this narrow corridor, and the intensified driveway placement and the snow storage becomes a bit of a challenge as well. So we will take this back. We will be looking for the developer to support some of our consulting fees related to the report if possible. And we'll try to have something back, if not the end of October, but within November on this, if the timelines allow.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Any other members of council have any comments? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you. Through you, the mayor. We attended the Good Roads Conference this year. That's the first time I had attended. And through that conference, there was quite a bit of outside the box thinking. And I had come back and already had conversations with the mayor and CAO because we get a lot of requests from residents as we build out on the south side of Moseley. We're getting more and more pedestrian cycle traffic through some of those north-south roads. I know residents from 39th Street and a number of streets have raised concerns, and turning some of those roads into one way, as what is being suggested here, seems to me that it would alleviate some of those concerns. And for the residents, it means, going around the block. It's not a huge hardship, but it's those same residents that are raising similar concerns as what were raised in this development. So I think we're going to need to investigate some of this, what I call a little bit of outside the box thinking, but no question, when you consider how narrow that is, you would think that going one way would obviously make it safer for cyclists and pedestrians and a little easier for snow storage. So I would look forward to receiving that report back to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Kevin?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The one comment I wanted to make as well, which might be helpful for council and certainly appropriate, would be to get a survey from the neighborhood and understand the position of the residents that do front on these streets and have that included within the report. So that will take some time, but I think it's appropriate just to gauge the level of support or opposition or feedback from the local neighborhoods. So that would be included at my recommendation.
Excellent recommendation, Kevin. Thank you. Councillor Belanger, go ahead.
Just a follow-up to that, I would maybe suggest that we invite those individuals to like a meeting where how we've done in the past, and that there can be some two-way dialogue because sometimes when it's just a case of a survey, they really don't have all of the information they need to make a quality decision, whereas if we actually presented options to them and could sort of lay it out a little bit in a presentation, that can greatly affect the outcome.
And I know that we have done a public meeting on this, and I think Haymont also did a public session on this, their own. where residents did have that opportunity, but I think we're asking for something a little different here, again, outside the box, and so probably not a bad idea to engage the public as much as we can at that point. So it's a special area of town. It's an area where people have made significant investments, and we know that our developer, in this case Haymont, is looking to make a significant investment as well, and has a record of working with the public. So I think that's a good idea, and I'm sure that staff can include that in their report. Any other comments or questions from members of council? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I do have a resolution that council received a presentation from Haymont Investments Limited and Tatham Engineering Limited pertaining to shore lane orientation for information. Do we have an amendment to that as well to send that back to staff, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. We would add to that motion that engineering staff be directed to bring back a report to council with recommendations for shore lane orientation.
So we'll include the words as amended. All right, you've heard the question. Any questions or comments? Any further? All right, all in favor? Sorry, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That motion carries. So that'll go back to staff. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 5.2, presentations. And before we do that, I understand that we've made a slight error here. Madam Deputy Clerk, do you want to explain that, and then we can get this gentleman to come forward?
Thank you, Worship. I apologize to the gentleman in the audience. There's a bit of confusion on some of the items that are similar but different. So I do have a gentleman here to speak to item 7.4.5, the Junior Hockey League presentation, or sorry, report from staff.
All right, so if you want to come forward, sir, and state your name and address for the record, please. Love the hat. Just push the silver button in the center of the microphone there. All right.
Thanks. My name's Warren Churchman, and I'm a resident here in town. And just yesterday on one of the sites, I saw that there was a consideration for a GMHL team here in Wasaga Beach. So what I wanted to do today was just make sure that council looks into this league completely before they would offer any concessions or long-term agreement with this particular league. I spend 2 or 3 nights a week minimum scouting junior hockey in the province of Ontario, in the OHL and all OHA sanctioned leagues. The GMHL is, just so you know, is not sanctioned by Hockey Canada, and it's not a member of the Ontario Hockey Association. In hockey circles, it's referred to as the Outlaw League. The kids pay an extremely high amount of money to play in this league. I think the town would be better served by something that is an OHA sanctioned league like the Junior C League, better rivalries, and a better quality of hockey, and a lot better for the local kids to be able to play and develop their skills. So I just wanted to make sure that the councillors all look into this league and the town looks into the league, and before any concessions or long-term agreements would be signed, because it might hurt our chances of getting a legitimate league here in town. That's all.
Thank you very much, Warren. Appreciate your comments. All right, we'll now move on to item 5.2, presentations. We have Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiatives, remembership with the city's initiative. Mr. Phil Murphy-Rehum, is he with us here today, or is he coming in via?
Yes, he is joining us virtually, Your Worship.
All right, oh, there he is. All right, welcome,
I can see
Phil.
myself on the screen. That's a good sign.
All right, well, you have the floor.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the invitation to speak today about the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. So I'm Phil Murphy-Rehum. I'm the Canada Policy, or I used to be the Canada Policy Director with the Cities Initiative, getting used to my new title. Now I'm the Senior Director of Membership and Development for the organization. And it's a pleasure to be before Council this morning to present about the Cities Initiative. The mayor had recommended and suggested that I come present before council, so it's truly an honor to have that opportunity today. So I've put together a short presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. So if you'll bear with me just for a moment, hopefully that will work. And can folks see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you. So the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is a binational coalition of Canadian and U.S. mayors and local elected leaders that work collaboratively to promote the economy, the environment, and well-being of communities across the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin. We were founded in 2003 by then Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley and then Mayor David Miller of Toronto. The concept of the Cities Initiative was one that was developed by mayors for mayors, and so we are here to serve the municipal executive as well as elected officials, and to bring your perspectives forward to different Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River bodies, to federal, provincial, and state governments as well. In advocating across a series of issues that are impacting the basin more specifically. We are the largest municipally focused organization in the basin that deal with issues that impact, and I'll go through some of our strategic pillars. But when we talk about water quality, water levels, economic development along our waters, those are all issues that we deal with as an organization. Across Ontario, Quebec, and the 8 Great Lakes states, we have more than 250 members, and that keeps growing every year. Just a few years back, when our current CEO took over, we were hovering at around 90, and so we've seen tremendous growth and interest from municipalities across the basin in joining our coalition. The group reaches all the way from Duluth, Minnesota to Rimouski, Quebec, that little eastern dot, almost in that estuary zone of the St. Lawrence. Our largest delegation is located in the province of Ontario, with nearly half of our membership located in the province. The way that we work as an organization is what we call the ACE framework. So we advocate for programs, policies, and resources on behalf of our members. We help elevate our members' voices, both collectively, but on certain issues, if our members come to us looking for assistance around a specific issue, we can also provide some support on that front. We also provide a forum for collaboration on issues of shared interest. We offer programming. We also offer networking opportunities to share best practices between members. And we also offer a platform for educating our members on solutions to common challenges by inviting outside experts that can provide some of the best-in-class examples or practices that are relevant to the municipal level in those issues that we manage. We do that through our webinar series, which is open not only to our mayors, but also councillors and staff within our membership. We also have a regular newsletter that is also available to essentially anyone in the public, but also anyone that would be interested from the town in signing up. We can definitely add you to the distribution list. And we also have our annual conference where we do have a series of sessions relating to a given topic. So for example, this past year we met in Chicago, had around 150 municipal leaders, business leaders, and other government officials join us in Chicago around the theme of climate action, where we worked with an organization called ICLEI to develop some and deliver some workshops on climate action planning for those in attendance. And so what we handed to folks in attendance were some practical steps or tools that they could use in terms of developing their climate mitigation and adaptation plans. Now, as I alluded before, we work across four strategic pillars. These are sort of the sandboxes in which we work as an organization. So the first one is and has long been our raison d'etre as an organization, which is around ecosystem and source water protection. Of course, when we look at these issues at the community level, the biggest argument that we can say when it comes to source water protection is that by keeping our waters clean, of course, it offers wonderful recreational and tourism opportunities for residents across the basin, but it also keeps costs low for municipalities and ratepayers because the cleaner your waters are, the less costly it is, of course, to treat it. And so that has long been a focus area of our organization. We also work in what we call water equity, which I often translate for our Canadian audiences because that's more of an American term, is ensuring that all residents in the basin have access to clean, safe, and affordable water. So a big push around that is around ensuring that we are modernizing our infrastructure for municipalities that have lead service lines still in existence. Ensuring that there are programs in place to replace those and ensure that, again, that residents and all residents have access to clean and safe water. Another big focus of the organization is around climate change and coastal resilience. So as I mentioned, this past annual meeting in Chicago, we focused on climate action planning. We also have a group called the Mayor's Commission on Coastal Resilience that's both active in the US and in Canada. Where we take a deeper dive around this issue of how do we protect our shorelines from variable water levels, from increased flooding, from erosion and increased storm severity, and come up with practical solutions that can be adopted at the municipal level or that we can advocate for provincial, state, and federal governments to put in place to ensure that property, infrastructure, and people are kept safe. And our fourth pillar covers what we call economic transformation. So within this idea or this concept of economic transformation, we want to look at the concepts both of the blue economy. So how do we leverage the fact that we're along one of the largest freshwater reserves and resources in the entire world to leverage those resources in a responsible and sustainable manner to drive economic development opportunities for our communities, while also avoiding the mistakes of the past. So when we look at source water protection and restoration, a lot of the investments and work that is being done by all governments to address those issues really deal with a lot of the legacy pollutants that were driven by the industrial development along our waterfronts. So we want to move more towards a clean economic development model, and look at whether it's tourism and recreation or new industries or startups. What are the new innovative approaches that we can take to develop a strong blue economy in the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin? And as we talk about climate change and as our members look to decarbonize or reduce their carbon emissions across the board, we want to also look at the green economy and what kinds of opportunities exist for our members to attract new employers or build up existing industries to take advantage of these new opportunities. Now, more specifically, in terms of our policy priorities that have guided our work for this past year, when we look at ecosystem and source water protection, two key areas have been advocating with the federal government to invest $1 billion in freshwater programming. We also have been working with a series of groups to address this issue of microfibers. So for those that maybe have not heard of the microfiber issue, according to some studies, this is the largest source of microplastic pollution in our waters. And essentially, every time that folks wash their clothes, those emit microfibers that then end up in our either in our septic systems or our wastewater treatment systems. And then when it gets to the wastewater treatment, there are a few issues. One being that our treatment systems aren't able to capture all of those microfibers. And even if they do, what do we then do with those biosolids? So if, for example, in some jurisdictions, those biosolids are then applied on agricultural lands, well, then those microplastics are being transferred into the environment that way and then go back into our waters. So it's certainly a big issue. One of our members had put forward a resolution a few years back advocating for regulations that new washing machines include a microfiber filter to capture more of those filter or fibers, so that we can capture more of them at the source, which is being proven as one of the more effective ways to avoid that issue. When we talk about water equity in Canada, our top advocacy piece has been around ensuring that there's a dedicated funding program for water infrastructure. So of course, there are a lot of infrastructure programs at the federal and provincial levels where water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure is an eligible project class. But what we find and what we hear from our members is that of course, those projects are put in competition with a whole series of other projects that are eligible under those programs. And we did have a time when the federal government had put forward dedicated programming for water infrastructure. And we certainly see the need for that to come back and have a direct investment and a clear message from our senior levels of government that this is a key foundational piece of infrastructure for municipalities, especially as we look at population growth across the basin, the impacts of climate change on these systems, as well as the issue of emerging contaminants, which takes me to the next point around PFAS. So this is an issue that's become more prevalent in the US and has bubbled up a bit in Quebec because there was a University of Montreal study that demonstrated how much PFAS was found in drinking water across the province. But essentially, PFAS is a class of chemicals that we find in flame retardants, anti-slicking materials, your Teflon pans, what have you. And essentially, those products leach out and are quite difficult to remove from the environment. So both in the US and in Canada, governments are reviewing the drinking water standards for PFAS, which we're obviously concerned will end up increasing costs for municipalities who may have to implement new technologies to clean those out. And per my point earlier, the best way to tackle these pollutants is to do it at the source. And so we've been advocating for a ban on non-essential PFAS or PFAS where there isn't an existing alternative for those instances where there be a life-saving or essential purpose. When we talk about climate change and coastal resilience, we are advocating for a Great Lakes St. Lawrence coastal resiliency study, similar to what's being done on the American side of the Great Lakes. So the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is receiving an investment from the U.S. government and has signed agreements with the 8 Great Lakes states to do a Great Lakes coastal resiliency study that will assess vulnerabilities across the Great Lakes, both looking at built infrastructure, but also natural capital, and provide a series of recommendations and investment priorities to address this issue and ensure, again, that people, property, and infrastructure is kept safe as our water levels are expected to get more variable. And we see in Canada this work being done more in a piecemeal fashion, and we love to have a more strategic master plan, if you will, of how all levels of government can work together to address this issue along the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence coasts. We're also working on addressing implementation barriers for coastal resilience. So again, we're finding by talking to our members that a lot of you are having issues, whether it's delays or additional costs because of legislative regulatory requirements, or sometimes because ministries or agencies are taking too long to respond to those issues. And when we're talking about in certain cases where folks are losing a meter or a foot of shoreline a year, you can't be waiting 6 months plus for approvals for these types of projects. And then looking at economic transformation, we are also asking the federal government to develop a Great Lakes St. Lawrence blue economy strategy. So the government is currently working on a blue economy strategy, but for one reason or another, the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence are likely not to be a focal point of that strategy, which we see as a huge missed opportunity. Given that we have an economy that represents around $7 trillion, it's a huge opportunity for the government to look at how we can work together to address these issues. Some of the key wins that we've seen this year. So earlier back in March, Prime Minister Trudeau announced $420 million for the Great Lakes. And we actually had some members around out in Belleville this morning for an announcement by Minister Stephen Kilbeau, providing further details on what this investment that was announced by the Prime Minister will help do for the Great Lakes. And we were very happy to see that because we were key advocates for that funding as part of that $1 billion ask to the federal government. So it's a historic amount. It's something that we should all be proud of. And of course, we'll continue to work with the government to make sure that that money is actually going out the door and that the government meets the $1 billion commitment that it had made in the 2021 election. We've also seen the creation of an independent and new and independent Canada Water Agency. This body is meant to improve the coordination of water policy and management across the country, which, as you may know, is certainly a very complex issue in this country, where municipalities, provinces, federal governments, and a whole slew of agencies all have a hand in how we manage our waters. And so we're hopeful that this agency will help clear and better coordinate the management of these essential resources. We've also helped raise the profile of the water infrastructure deficit and the needs for a water infrastructure investment in the basin. So, for example, we're very happy that FCM is also coming forward and asking for dedicated funding for water infrastructure. It certainly shows that there's alignment across the municipal sector for this need and investing in these critical systems. We've also been raising awareness and support for this Made in Canada Great Lakes Coastal Resiliency Study. So we're currently working with Conservation Ontario on a memorandum of cooperation to fully flesh out a proposal for the federal and provincial governments to develop this study in Canada. We had one of our co-chairs of the Mayor's Commission on Coastal Resilience ask a question to the Minister of Environment at the most recent AMO conference about the study, where there was an openness by the minister's part to look into this. And so we're seeing momentum that gives us hope that in the next few years, we could see an announcement by Canada and provinces to do something similar as what the Army Corps is doing. And we're also working on a pilot of a coastal resilience program that's been very active in the US and that we're hoping to be able to expand into Canada. So in terms of, and I'll just speed through this really quickly, but across our policy, networking and learning, and also strategic input opportunities, our members can engage with us through our mayor's commissions. We also have a series of policy events, including a day in Ottawa and a day in Washington, where we work with other Great Lakes and St. Lawrence organizations to advocate for our priorities. We also have a policy resolution mechanism that gets put forward at every annual meeting, where you can present a policy priority for your municipality and then have that voted, and then it becomes one of our advocacy priorities for that year and moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, from a networking and learning perspective, we have our annual meeting, and we have webinars, and we have additional programming like this coastal resilience program that we're piloting in Canada. and from a strategic input, so how our organization moves forward. Our members are, of course, eligible to sit on the board of directors. We also created an Ontario Regional Working Group, so we have a series of regional leads that are meant to help us engage our members across the province where we have our largest delegation. And we also do an annual survey where we ask our members a series of questions around specific issues that touch on our pillars. And so it's another way that you can help guide our policy and programming work. So in terms of benefits and that are offered to our members, of course, we, like I mentioned earlier, we provide generalized advocacy for joint priorities for our members, but we can also support you on an individual issue. If there's something that you think that relates to our mandate that we could help you on, we're certainly happy to do that. We also have what's called the WEGI Award. So every year we do a call for submissions for a project that is what we call a sustainability project that contributes to the water quality of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin. Winners of that prize are eligible for a $7,500 US grant, and that gets announced at our annual meeting. And so it's a nice opportunity for our members, especially from smaller communities, as the award is eligible only for those with populations of 100,000 or under. We can also provide public relations support and exposure. So every time that we do an announcement or an event, we make sure that our members that are involved are getting their quotes in. We also put that into the local media. We offer special rates for our events like our annual conference, and then we also provide newsletters, other updates, webinars, and what have you. So with that, I will stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation, and I'll open the floor to members of council with any questions or comments. Seeing Councillor Blanger, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Obviously, we're very fortunate in Canada to have this resource of fresh water available. I've been working as a resource with a local environmental group for about 2.5 years, and we're just forming an environmental sustainability advisory committee to council. Our first meeting's coming up in a month, so I am certainly supportive of the work you do. It's like everything else, is so many of us take fresh water for granted, but we have seen situations in the past where that's not the case, and it's catastrophic. So I think a very worthwhile organization, and thank you again.
That's great. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Blanger. Any other comments? Seeing none, Phil, thank you very much for a very in-depth and obviously a knowledgeable presentation. We appreciate that. Council will certainly take everything now into consideration for sure, and we wish you a good day. We do have a resolution here for council that council received a presentation from the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative pertaining to the membership with the city's initiative for information. Again, any further questions or comments? Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor DeLeo and Councillor Ego, all in favor? That motion carries. Moving on to the next delegation. Item 5.3 is the Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey Association read the new twin pad growth plan, and we have Mr. Ralph Fiala and Heather Gibson, President and Treasurer of the local Hockey Association, here to speak with us. So come forward and welcome. Good to see you. Just ask you to push the center button, the silver button there on your mic, Ralph, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor Smith, Council. First of all, Mayor Smith, welcome back, and see you're in great shape there. Greatly good news.
That might be the first time in my life I've been told I was in great shape, Ralph, so thank you.
Firstly, thank you to you and your council for permitting the Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey Association to speak to the council today. I'd like to introduce myself, Ralph Fiala. I'm the 23-24 president for Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey, and today I brought with me Heather Gibson, who is our treasurer. I believe, Mr. Mayor, it was approximately 7 years ago myself and Dave Farr stood before you and your council at the time. We presented statistical data in support of the Twin Pad Arena. Today we have it. And on behalf of our executive this year and past executives, we thank you, this council and past councils that did all the hard work to bring that to us here today. Also at this time, I'd first like to start with Mr. Mayor. In late October, early November this year, Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey is going to be having their general information meeting. At that time, we would like to invite you and other council members, if available, to attend and announce to our membership the proposed timeline for the actual grand opening of the arena. Our intentions here today are to speak to a number of topics. One, the association size increasing that we're expecting, the programs and kids developments that we are continuing to develop, the potential of women's hockey coming to Wasaga Beach, the expansion of our major events, for example, the Silver Stick, the higher level of hockey that we intend to bring, potential amalgamation amongst local centers, the increased number of youths in our program, training for our volunteers, and to again reiterate to secure and develop girls and ladies hockey within Wasaga Beach. At this time, for these areas, with all the increases that we're anticipating, with the hard work and the new twin pads here, Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey Association, it no doubt can double their growth and utilize the Carlucci Zancor Center to its fullest. Most importantly, it's to provide more opportunities for our youth and volunteers in the community and move forward with growth, and also in conjunction with bringing potentially more tourism, attending our events, and being part of them. At this time, Mr. Mayor and Council, again, the need for the facility was granted by you guys. Our need for growth, that is going to happen with the growth in Wasaga Beach itself. Hockey is a key ingredient to our lifestyles here in Wasaga Beach and all youth and all people involved, right down to the parents. There'll be times, I'm sure, where somebody at this room will have kids or grandkids playing in that new arena, and it's up to Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey to provide those programs for them. And part and parcel with growth comes needs, and our needs will be to expand our usage of that facility. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your time.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, through you, the mayor. Obviously, we need to maximize the use of this facility. There's no question it's going to be the state-of-the-art facility in South Georgian Bay. And I don't envy our Director of Recreation and Facility and Events, because we're hearing so many ideas that are coming forward, you know, whether it be concert, whether it be ice shows, obviously hockey will be huge, you know, potentially, you know, a higher caliber of league. So I think everything will be looked at very seriously as to how we can maximize the benefit to our community, our residents of all ages, but to also obviously generate income. I think everybody's aware that the resident taxpayer of Wasaga Beach has invested over $60 million in this facility, and the operational costs annually are significant. So Chris, we're counting on you to jam as much activity and benefit into those walls as possible. And I think it is going to be a huge opportunity for our community and for economic development, and again, most importantly, for the health, well-being, and entertainment of our residents. So thanks for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Ego.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. It's good to have hockey here. How many registrations do you have now? You know, you read in Ontario that hockey's down 15%, so it's a worry. And we certainly want this to be a lively hockey town. How is your registration this year for? How many youths do you have?
This year, we have over 200 youths registered with Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey
Over
for
200?
this season.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the reason why our numbers are down a little bit this year is this year we had approximately a full team of kids, what we refer to as age out. So we lost approximately 20 kids just because they are overage and have moved on. We are also still suffering from the effects of COVID. During that 2.5 years, membership dropped and kids never returned from hockey. That exact number, sorry, Councillor, I don't have for you. And another thing, as to why our numbers are down, we have a lot of great hockey talent in this town. And these kids have seized the opportunity to move on to play A, AA, and AAA. Some of our junior members of our U18 age group, very skilled kids, we're very fortunate and blessed to move on and moved up to play junior C. So they're playing in an age group up. So all those numbers contribute to why our numbers are a little bit down this year, but we are seeing at the lower end numbers starting to increase again, and that is part of our programming. That is bringing those numbers back to reality.
Yeah, thanks. I have taken a lot of time on your website and some local websites. So do I see it right here? Under registration on your website, it says our online registration is now closed. So are you full? Like, how's that working?
It's considered full, ma'am. We have to, there's a number of kids that you can register to, which is 18. So we have to base our registrations on, if we have 18 kids register, we turn it into a wait list. And if we have enough to make a third team, for example, then that wait list becomes a third team. We're at the point right now where all our teams are at their capacity for numbers, except for a couple divisions that are a little bit low. And so the registration is closed. It's normal for every association to set a time frame for opening and closing registration. We need to follow these guidelines for planning purposes. So usually by the beginning of September, we need to set the number of teams we have and how many kids we're going to be placing on each team, depending on the registration. If there is a child that moves into the area because of school, parents' work, or whatever, we will attempt to make consideration and get them on a team. So even so registration says closed, number-wise, we still try to work with them. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I should have directed that answer through you first.
That's
I
fine, Ralph.
apologize.
Anything further, Councillor?
No, thank you very much.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Belanger?
Just to follow up, and, you know, when you indicate that we're down a little over past years, I have talked to, I've only been on skates twice in my life, so I'm certainly not the expert on hockey, but the people I've talked to, it's becoming quite an expensive venture to have your children in hockey. And, you know, one of the things that would concern me, given historically our census data is the average family income in Wasaga Beach is a little lower than other municipalities in Ontario. We've gone through COVID. I think everybody's well aware of the inflation. So there's no doubt many children in Wasaga Beach that currently would not have the opportunity to play in these leagues unless, you know, through Jumpstart or through other fundraising or other initiatives that we're very in tune to that, and that we have a program in place to try to help those families out. And that would be very important to me. I'm not wanting you to speak to that right now, but as we go forward, clearly it's important that we give the opportunity of hockey and activity to all of the children of Wasaga Beach that want to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? All right, I just have a few. Thank you, Ralph, for your presentation. We truly appreciate it. You're absolutely right when you say Wasaga is a hockey town, always has been. Wasaga Stars Arena built back in the mid-'70s, was quite a feat at the time, and now we have this new arena. And put all the politics aside, this is going to be a building that no doubt this community will be proud of, and we need to utilize. And so I think we'll need to sit down with the Minor Hockey Association, the Figure Skating Association, so on and so forth. And I know that Chris and his team are probably already done that, and they're continuing to do that, but we certainly need to work on bolstering numbers and getting those numbers up. And you know, we've got a $60 million plus facility here that we absolutely need to use. And we need to use it to its absolute fullest abilities. And so we are looking to bring other levels and whatnot of hockey to Wasaga Beach. And, you know, Wasaga Beach is one of those communities that we are fortunate enough and blessed to have had an NHL all-star from this community, and Mr. Jason Arnott, who is just a wonderful young man. So we want to see more of that. And we've made this investment. It's no doubt a massive investment, and now we need to capitalize on that. And I can assure you that this council is all about capitalizing on those things. And so, again, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the beating you put yourself through every day in doing this volunteer position in minor sports, not just in Wasaga Beach, but anywhere. So it's not easy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may please make one comment to Mr. Belanger regarding his last points. Mr. Belanger and to the rest of the council, a very good point regarding the cost. Costs are increasing drastically for the sport and all sports. I'm very thankful we got a treasurer who has a very sharp pencil. And this year our executives sat and discussed at great length costs in general. All the increases that the association is going through, not only ice cost, but our insurances, our fees that we pay to the OMHA, Hockey Canada, and all those. Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey decided that this year we will not, or would not, and did not increase our registration fees. This is one step closer for our executive to allow those families and to keep their costs down as well. So we're trying our best to help that situation. There is those number of programs, for example, Jumpstart, that do provide assistance. And we do have a few kids that were less fortunate, and our executive came together and we pulled some strings. We got them their equipment so their families didn't have to cover those costs. So we're helping the kids and families out as much as we can. Mr. Mayor and to the council, thank you very much for your time today, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Ralph, very much again for your presentation, and not only a sharp pencil, but a sharp mind. All right. All right, we do have a motion here that council received a presentation from the Wasaga Beach Minor Hockey Association pertaining to the new Twin Pad Arena growth plan for information. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ego and Deputy Mayor Snell, all in favor. That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to number 5.4, under presentations, we have the, help me if I'm not pronouncing this right, but is it the Blaze Transit? Is that pronounced correctly?
Blaze Transit, yes.
Blaze, all right, thank you. So Blaze Transit, read the on-demand transit update report for Wasaga Beach Transit Route 1 pilot. And I can tell you I'm looking forward to this because this sounds exciting. So Kevin, I'll turn the floor over to you and then to our presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is, I guess, the first formal update for council. I know we've talked about it at length at various budget discussions and meetings. And I thought it was appropriate to have Kurt present the software that we will be using to help implement the on-demand service for Route 1 on the east end of town. And it's a hybrid type of approach that we're piloting. We know there's going to be challenges and with change specific to some of the route on Route 1, whereas you know it's a fixed route right now that runs from Walmart out to Archer Road and back. And we know we have about 35 minutes there that it's, we'll say, underutilized. It's not fully utilized to its capacity. We know we have demand in other areas in town, specifically the Elm development as far down as Fairway, Marl Lake Village, Hometown. And there is an opportunity through leveraging this technology to create a bit of an on-demand system where we can be flexible instead of that fixed route into the northeast, that it will deviate based on the demand and then return back to Walmart before it continues on its fixed route westerly to connect with the superstore and the other fixed stops. So I thought it was appropriate just for Kurt to present the software and how it works. And the next step certainly for us following this presentation is to finalize the marketing materials and the communication strategy around getting this to our residents and the users and hopefully future users for that part of town as we're looking to launch mid-November. So without further ado, Kurt is the specialist in the software and with Blaze. And Kurt, if you don't mind just going through your presentation, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Good morning, Your Worship, and esteemed members of Council. As Kevin mentioned, my name is Kurt Blais, and I'm here on behalf of Blaze Transit to present on the on-demand transit pilot project for Wasaga Beach. So just some agenda items for everyone today. I'll do an introduction to Blaze as well as on-demand transit. I will then cover Blaze's technological solution, cover a little bit of the feasibility study that was completed by Blaze for Wasaga Beach, go into the details of the pilot project, and then cover some best practices and risk mitigation, hopefully leave some time at the end for any questions. So jumping right into the Blaze team, I myself here am acting as project manager for the pilot project at Wasaga Beach. And then we have our head of service delivery, Paris-Gibi Mur. I myself am a registered professional engineer in the province of Quebec, and our entire team is full of transit planners, urbanists, and engineers that are all transit enthusiasts in general. Blaze is already supporting 40 plus communities, the majority of which are located in Southern Ontario and rural Quebec. Our focus is really on rural, small and mid-sized cities. And obviously we are based here in Montreal, but our team works remotely across Canada and has ties with a lot of local different regions across Canada. A few of the transit models that work with Blaze that we've integrated in the past include traditional fixed route transit, as Wasaga Beach operates currently, but what we're going to focus on today is demand responsive transit, which includes specialized transit or paratransit, on-demand transit, or flex transit, which kind of has a mix of fixed stops plus on-demand detours. And our platform is a solution for all of these transit services. So focusing on-demand transit today and how it differs from a traditional fixed route transit line. Generally, passengers have to request a ride in order to gain access to on-demand transit. Passengers can submit their trip requests via a mobile application or by calling into a customer service agent directly with the operator Landmark. Our system will then go ahead and optimize all of the passenger requests where an algorithm will assess the demand and determine the most optimal route to complete all of the trips that were requested. Passengers would receive their trip details, including which stop they're required to board at and the times at which the vehicle will be able to service their demand. And then the passenger would complete their trip as a traditional transit service in general. So some of the benefits of demand responsive transit really include streamlining the process for operations. So as you can see on the figures on the screen, a traditional fixed bus line would serve all of the stops regardless if there are passengers necessarily utilizing those stops, whereas an equivalent on-demand line can skip certain stops and actually streamline even the navigation between stops to really complete the trips, again, faster, but also at a lower operational cost. So some of the specific benefits of demand responsive transit for Wasaga Beach really includes the optimization of resources compared to fixed route transit. As Kevin mentioned, utilizing the same vehicle to serve multiple areas will not increase necessarily operational costs, but really improve the service, which can also result in higher ridership and increased revenues for Wasaga Beach. Also, another benefit of on-demand responsive transit is the ability to track data and make reporting much easier. With demand responsive, the town will have access to more data on where passengers are looking to go to and from versus traditional transit. Some benefits for riders also include the ability to book their rides themselves more last minute through the mobile applications. But they will also have increased connectivity to the existing transit network as Wasaga Beach looks at expanding the service zone. And riders are also able to track their ride and the vehicle in real time through the mobile application. So as I had mentioned earlier, one of the demand responsive models that Blaze serves is called a flex model. And this allows for fixed stops between key hotspots. And so some of these fixed spots or the fixed line that will be remaining in Wasaga Beach would be served at the given time windows as is generally set. But then we can go ahead and also expand the service or allow the service to treat on-demand requests outside of these fixed stops. And so this allows regular ad hoc riders to still have access to their traditional transit service while expanding the coverage and providing benefits to additional users in these new areas. So in general, the Blaze technology solution is composed of 3 different systems, all available in English, French, and Spanish. The Blaze Transit application is available on any web platform, any web browser, and also available as a mobile application. And this is generally for passengers to submit their trip requests and follow along with their trip details, and again, the bus location in real time. And for any regular passenger who does not either have access to a smartphone or wishes to speak to someone in person to complete their trip request, they are absolutely still able to do so through calling into the call center. The second system that Blaze offers is called Blaze Drive, and this is the application that drivers will have access to, which will give them turn-by-turn navigations and all necessary information to complete the boarding of passengers at these demand responsive stops. And then, of course, we have the Blaze Engine, which is our admin portal. It also allows for dispatchers and customer service to complete those called-in requests and book trips for passengers who are unable to do so themselves or wish to speak to someone over the phone. And it also gives access to admins and dispatchers on their service and allows them to customize the service based on their needs. Another point that I had mentioned earlier about data and analytics, through the admin portal, administrators and dispatchers also have access to the Blaze dashboard, which will provide them with more data and some real-time statistics and analytics of their service. Diving into the feasibility study that was completed for the town of Wasaga Beach by Blaze, there was a mandate given to study the potential of repurposing the vehicle on Route 1 to cover an extended easterly zone with utilizing on-demand transit. And so you can see in Figure 1, highlighted in orange, the existing service area east of the Walmart, as Kevin was mentioning. And then in Figure 2, the expanded area that was part of the feasibility study completed by Blaze to look into how we can utilize on-demand transit to serve this larger area. So some of the limitations of the study obviously include some differences between a simulated and real context. So a lot of the alighting locations or off-boarding locations of rides were not known and are not known in traditional transit data. And so some of this data had to be simulated, obviously, to complete the feasibility study. There was also no demand data for the new development area. And so a few different demand scenarios were studied during the study. Obviously, there's also some potential issues with the accuracy of some of the data provided. And so there's some GTFS data discrepancies between boarding locations that Blaze had to decipher and determine what was the appropriate data to use during simulations. And then there's also the reconfiguration of fixed line schedules, which is a limitation to the study. We did notice that the Route 2 transfer time does not necessarily align with the proposed on-demand service. And so those utilizing the on-demand service but wishing to gain access to Route 2 don't obviously have the most convenient times to transfer at that Walmart stop. In general, the results of the feasibility study were to move ahead with the utilization of the Route 1 vehicle, stopping the fixed line at the Walmart and serving the area east of Walmart on demand, including the existing area, which is about a 15-minute round trip from the Walmart, and also the new development area as development expands would potentially take a little bit longer to serve both of those areas completely. And so there was a recommendation to allow for a minimum of 45 minutes for this on-demand trip service. And we did notice one of the results as well as demand from the new development were to increase, there will be less availability to serve the demand in the existing areas currently served by the Route 1 fixed line. And there was also a recommendation to use on-demand flex stops to serve specific areas at certain time. However, as we noted, this would require the 45-minute window in general. And so there was an alternative recommendation as well to start with a fully on-demand service first and really learn passenger behavior through the data collected and adjust the service once we have access to that more information. So diving into the pilot project that will be completed for Wasaga Beach, again, focusing on that on-demand service using that Route 1 vehicle. You can see in the map on the screen, highlighted in purple, the entire service area that will be served on demand utilizing this vehicle before it rejoins the fixed line heading westbound again at that Walmart stop. So this will obviously still serve part of the existing fixed line, but also that additional new development area. And you can see in blue on the map where our additional virtual stops that are added, where passengers will have access to these virtual stops via the mobile application and obviously over phone calls as well, to know where they need to be picked up without the installation of physical stop markers being required. And again, as we had highlighted, there will only be 35 minutes of time to serve this demand to begin with. And then obviously after the pilot project or throughout the pilot project, analysis can be completed to decide whether the fixed route times need to be changed or adjusted in order to really service all of the demand. Some of the parameters of the pilot project include a booking window of 7 days to 15 minutes. So passengers will be able to book their rides up to 7 days in advance if they wish, or up to 15 minutes before they need to depart for their specific trip. Again, that on-demand service vehicle will only be available in those 35-minute windows. And so passengers will only have access, obviously, during that time when the vehicle is available to serve their demand. We're using a closest to stop model. So really this only accounts for mirrored stops that will be just added on opposite sides of the street. This gives passengers a little bit more flexibility on the time that they could be potentially picked up by the vehicle, as the vehicle will circulate in one direction and then being returning to the Walmart. By having stops on both sides of the streets, we allow the vehicle to pick up passengers in either direction. The payment options and the payment strategy will remain the same as the current fixed route transit system. So pay on board only option and the existing fare structure will be maintained. So some best practices and some risk mitigation. Obviously, we advocate for a lot of rider education, excessive communication specifically to the existing passengers that will be affected, that currently live or utilize the stops on the fixed line that will be changed, but also to new passengers to ensure that they know that there will be service to their area now. We also always advocate for onboard engagement before and during that first week of launching of the project. So we request that transit employees or anyone who's available be on board to really answer questions to the public and passengers utilizing the service. And then also making sure that there's ongoing promotion of the service post-launch to really reach any new users and make sure that also that the communication continues with the existing passengers who are going to be feeling a little bit more of that change. We also make sure to focus on driver education. So Blaze provides training directly to drivers for Wasaga Beach's transit service. And then Landmark will also be responsible for some on-the-road testing. Landmark, the operator, is also currently operating a few other on-demand systems through Blaze, and so they have a very high familiarity with our system as well. And then we also want to make sure that we're collecting feedback from passengers and drivers once the service is launched, and we continue collecting feedback from them, and we make potential adjustments to the system as we continue to have this more data. That really concludes my presentation, and I can open the floor to any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Members of council, Councillor DeLeo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It sounds like a great service. Just one question I have for you, and I'm going to read from your report. It says, in the event that there is a conflict with service demands versus allotted time available to deviate from Walmart, the app will notify the rider accordingly such that an alternate pickup time can be arranged. Now, if somebody called it in and they don't have data on their phone or text, will they get a phone call back?
So any called-in request is treated slightly different by our system than the mobile app or mobile submitted requests. And so while the passenger is on the phone with the customer service agent, they will receive confirmation at that time that their trip can or cannot be served. And those times are locked in really to avoid the callback situation to a specific passenger. And so anyone who does not have access to live updates generally has those trips guaranteed or at least confirmed at the time of calling in.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. On the Blade Drive for the driver, obviously with this service, the general route can change almost on every cycle. So would they have all of the data or the information, current construction, accidents, that type of thing?
Yes. So any construction that would cause longer road closures can actually be submitted directly to our team through continued, obviously, communication with Kevin and all of the team at Wasaga Beach that works on the transit service. All of these construction closures or potential closures due to other events happening in town can be completed on our end. We use customized OSRM maps, which is an open source mapping software that we're able to customize and again close those roads. For accidents, any detours that may need to be completed last minute by drivers, the detailed routing would reroute them as like a typical Google Maps or other mapping software would do as well if a road is unavailable.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ego, did I see your hand? Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, your worship. Yes, staff and Blaze organization, thank you very much for this presentation. I think it's a great idea to give this a test run, and it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just out of curiosity, is our neighbor Collingwood using your application as well? Because I know they've just rolled out this technology as well.
Yes, Collingwood is currently utilizing Blaze's system and platform to deliver an on-demand transit solution.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. I think it just makes sense to start to adapt to this intuitive type of technology for both for efficiency and for ease of use, and especially too to be able to address some of the needs in Elm and Hometown and Park Place, to be able to do that without added cost and added vehicles and resources. It just makes sense. So thank you for developing this technology, and thank you to the director for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. No other comments. I have a question. So if someone calls and needs a deviation, obviously, so that the bus goes to them, the current riders on the bus, so if they're on their way back, say home, and they're expecting that bus to follow a specific route and it deviates, is there notification to them, or how does that work?
Yes. So if perhaps a passenger had booked a trip from the Walmart, right, where the fixed line would end, to their home to be taken there, and then someone else had also made a request to be picked up at that time, the algorithm would determine the most optimal way to navigate between all of those stops to be served. So my understanding of the geographical region is there wouldn't be a whole lot of deviation, as there are some major roads that the bus would drive down in order to complete the stops. And likely it would be the person submitting their trip later in time that would have potential deviation in their time requested. So we don't try to deviate anyone who's currently completing a trip, but if there is any time delays for them, they would receive notifications through the app. I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does. So education here is going to be paramount for certain, which I'm sure we can handle and do. I think this sounds to me to be an absolute winner, especially with Wasaga Beach. The issue we face here obviously is our lineage and how many kilometers we have to cover in order to get a route completed. And I think that this is going to hopefully solve a lot of issues for us and get people the service that they require. So Kevin, to you and your team, and to Kurt, to you and your team, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing this roll out and positive results from it. All right, if we have no other questions or comments from anyone, we do have a resolution that Council received the presentation from Blaze Transit pertaining to on-demand transit for Wasaga Beach for information, and further that the report titled On-Demand Transit Update Report to the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council meeting of September 28, 2023 be received for information. Questions or comments any further? Seeing none, mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Belanger and Councillor DeLeo, all in favour? That motion carries unanimously. Kurt, thank you very much for your time. All right, we're now going to move on into government relations. 6.1, I'm just going to ask our CAO to comment on this, and then I think we'll take a 10 or 15 minute break. So Government Relations Communications Department update, Mr. CAO or Mr. Deputy CAO?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. We threw you a curveball there. So just wanted to announce and let Council know, so our walk-in clinic opened, our medical clinic opened on Monday, so we're operational, so we're functional this week. We have clinics going on through the family health team and the family health organization Monday to Friday. Diabetes, lung health, that's occurring. And the groups got together, so we have the community health center as well, so operating nurse practitioner walk-in services 9 a.m. till noon Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're off to a good start, and then our anticipation is we'll have grand opening October the 13th, and then by November 1st start the evening hours of the clinic. So I just wanted to announce that, Your Worship.
Well, that's absolutely excellent news. Any comments from council on this? Cheer, absolutely. So great news, and kudos to you, Jerry, and Andrew, and the rest of the staff that have worked on this, and to all our partners out there within the local area that have helped and are certainly as positive about this as we are. And I'm confident that this will become a walk-in clinic that will eventually be probably full-time once we get there, and it'll also be a great source to bring more doctors to not just Wasaga Beach, but the surrounding area. So we're certainly on the right track. It's a positive note. Looking forward to the grand opening. Jerry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I neglected to mention we've already had doctors through looking at the clinic, and actually had an interview with Caitlin and I a couple of weeks back. So interest is rising, so hopefully we'll get some docs in there sooner rather than later.
Excellent news. Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate that. All right, so we're now going to take a 15-minute break. So we'll be back at 11:40. All right, this meeting is now on break.
procedures or how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if guidelines, because we have a lot of grade too, right? You know, and even I want to encourage our staff to, if you have to operate in the grade, but there are some things that are, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, but then there's a lot of unless.
Well,
you know?
and that's what we're saying. In the perfect world, this
Like,
is what we
unless-
expect you to follow, but the world's not perfect. And we can't just stop our service or whatever because it
And
didn't
have
fit
two
the
guys
mold.
argue.
Yeah, exactly. It's still supposed to say you make the best call. Now, of course, with that, your mic's on there.
Thank you very much, Chris, and welcome back, everybody. We're now going to move into item 7, the consent list committee of the whole, and I will now turn the floor over for community services to Councillor DeLeo. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will now review the Community Services Business Unit of Committee of the Whole. All items listed below will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent list and considered under the appropriate business unit. I am not aware of any items that have been pulled from the consent agenda at this time. Would anyone like to make a comment on an item prior to the consent recommendation? No? Okay, now I will pass the consent recommendation. Resolved that the Community Services section of Committee of the Whole hereby receive the September 28, 2023 consent list item 7.1, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding agenda items pulled from the motion and voted on separately. May I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mayor Smith and seconded by Councillor Eagle. All in favor? Passed unanimously. This concludes the Community Services Business Unit of Committee of the Whole. I will now pass the chair to Councillor Joe Belanger for Public Works section.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll read the resolution. I believe there is only one item pulled within Public Works, which is item 7.2.3. So resolve that the Public Works section of Committee of the Whole hereby receive the September 28, 2023 consent list item 7.2, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding agenda items pulled from the motion and voted on separately. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Eagle and Deputy Mayor Snell, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Before I go to the pulled item, were there comments on any other item? Seeing none. Item 7.2.3 was pulled by myself, and that was related to the recommendation report to reopen Beach Drive Area Transportation EA. And I just wanted to ask the question is, will that also be addressing potential changes to traffic flow options within the EA, or is that separate from the actual construction of the Beach Drive?
Through you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger, in terms of direction along Beach Drive, you mean, or what do you mean in terms of traffic flow?
I would say potentially direction on Beach Drive. Like right now we have, you know, 2nd to 3rd Street is closed off. We have two-way, I think between 1st and 2nd, and then currently now you can go two-way out of Spruce Street, which often causes some congestions. I know at one point in time we were talking about potentially eliminating one of the streets, so I just didn't know whether those were going to be a consideration and included in the EA, or whether that's a separate traffic study altogether.
Thank you for your clarification through you, Your Worship. Yeah, no, traffic is definitely a strong component of revisiting that and how that will affect the outcome. So yes, it is. In terms of the side streets, that's still subject to the development proposal. So that's still under review as well, but it'll be concurrently considered as part of the EA in terms of what stays and what goes, so to speak. Is that appropriate?
Thank you. It's, I just believe there's some opportunities there to improve our current situation, so I wanted to make sure it was included. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mayor Smith would like to comment.
Mayor, you're in such great shape, and obviously have lost some weight. It's I barely can see you over there. And I noticed how well you treated the last person that complimented you. So I'm looking forward to the afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You are on a roll, so you feel free to keep going. I think I just want to be clear, based on your comments and questions. The road was closed in the last council, so this process was just to reopen that, so is that technically and for the sake of paperwork and regulations within the Municipal Act, we had to reopen this road. So it now becomes a legal road again, correct? That's why we've done this?
If I may, Your Worship, so we undertook the environmental assessment to select a preferred alternative in terms of how best to design Beach Drive in the future. We followed through with that design based on the recommendations from the EA, which included, it was effectively a closed pedestrian thoroughfare with the ability to open to vehicles for select events or certain occasions. In this particular EA renewal or revisiting, we're going to look at it being fully opened with the ability to close it for events. So it's going from closed, open from time to time, to open and close from time to time, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. I think having to look at the traffic issues is significant and important. I've heard, and myself anyways, from a fair number of business operators down at the beachfront, the impact of the province doing the registered parking. Right, and it's creating this massive backlogging, especially as people are coming around Spruce and going out to the point, and then they're getting stopped there, and then it's creating this backup. So I think any sort of strategy that can be done in conjunction with the province in terms of how do we alleviate some of that backup that's happening because of the changes that they've implemented would be very helpful both to residents and visitors and businesses.
Thank you. Is there any further comment? Seeing none, I'll read the motion.
No, I had a comment.
Also, you're not on 7.2.3, are you?
On 7.2.
3.2. I have you down here.
Okay.
Did you want to make a comment on this?
On this section?
No, I'm just reading the motion for this particular report.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have clarification. So, that the report titled Reopen Beach Drive Area Transportation Environmental Assessment EA to the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council meeting of September 28th, 2023 be received for information, or be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
Sorry, Councillor Belanger, there's just more to that motion. There's more to that motion there.
Well, it goes on forever, my goodness. That staff be authorized to retain Tatham Engineering at an estimated cost of $219,000 plus HST to proceed with the addendum to the EAA for Beach Drive, and that, sorry, I'm just moving my screen here a bit, that the budget variance in the amount of approximately $60,000 as reported in the financial implications section of this report be approved and funded through the Federal Gas Tax Reserve and Development Charges Reserve. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor DeLeo and Councillor Eagle, all in favor? Carried unanimous. I am also looking after the development service section, so I will read the motion. As it stands now, I believe we have one item pulled, and I believe there's a comment as well. Resolved that the Development Service section of Committee of the Whole hereby receive the September 28th, 2023 consent list item 7.3, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding agenda items pulled, and the motion voted on separately. And the item pulled is 7.3.2. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Eagle and Deputy Mayor Snell, all those in favor? That's carried. I'll now pass the floor to Councillor Eagle. You wanted to make a comment on item 7.3.2. I pulled the item, but I'll let you comment first. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Boulanger. So, on the matter of the townhomes, the 42 units versus the 40 units, that's going to be sorted out, I understand, when the draft plan conditions come back to council for approval. And we understand that the applicant is already redesigning their site plan to accommodate a second emergency access. And if they cannot accommodate that, it will be spoken to in the staff report when the draft plan conditions come to council. I know many residents have been asking about that. So I had a chance to chat with our planning manager and had a good discussion on that portion. The other query I've had was on with the mayor on the site-specific amendments. I'm learning as much as I do not like smaller lots and less green space, etc. These things are often out of our control as a council, and we would end up dealing with the land tribunal on many issues and costing the municipality a great deal of money. And I also believe the mayor will be speaking to this later on this report today. My other big query, of course, I'm always concerned about the environment and land and all of that. So I did, and I succinctly just put it this way, that the subject land is 6.07 hectares, and only 15.8 is developable. So that left 4.49 hectares is proposed to be maintained as an environmental protection block. Well, this was a large report we had before, so it was great. It was very informative, and I read it many times. So I then called our planning manager, Trevor Houghton, to explain that for me. So I'm going to ask him now. He'll explain it for the public, those that are really questioning this development. Thank you, Trevor.
No problem. Through your worship, the subject property already has two zones. These lands go back to an Ontario Municipal Board hearing of a few years ago. So the boundaries of what was determined a few years ago between the EP and the residential zones has already been set. The zoning bylaw amendment that's before council does not propose to change those boundaries. What the zoning bylaw amendment proposes is to change the provisions within the zone of the residential. So there will be no change to what land ought to be or ought not to be zoned EP. That is set and will not change. What council is being asked to consider by the developer is site-specific amendments to allow their townhouse development to fit within the boundaries of what has already been established as the R3 zone.
Thank you very much for making that nice and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I had pulled this item and mainly over concern.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
So, did you pull the item? Oh, okay. Comment though. Sorry, you are so hard to see today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I wanted to touch on this as well, because I have had a few questions from some residents as well on this, and I've tried to explain it to the best of my ability. But my understanding is, yes, this did go through a long, lengthy process a few years back. It did go before the tribunal, and the developer in this case was successful and now is able to go forward with their plans. So the changes they're asking now for, or the adjustments, are well within their right to ask for. And I just wanted to be clear on this, because we've had this come up now several times before this council and in the last council. I can remember hearing Councillor Wells on a few occasions where he would, point out that if our official plan was basically up to date, that we wouldn't be seeing these requests come forward to us because they would already be covered within the official plan, and it's a case of us catching up to most other municipalities. I think that is the case here as well. Is that not right, Mr. Director?
Through your worship, yes, that is correct. The official plan is not the operating document. In this case, it's the implementation of our zoning bylaw, which is, council knows, is 20 years out of date and that we're currently trying to revise. So many of the provisions that you see coming to council on the monthly, it seems, is a reflection of the fact that our zoning bylaw is 20 years out of date and doesn't reflect the fact that as a growth node municipality, intensification and some of those requirements of our zoning bylaw that are now 20 years out of date are simply not practical. And so that is why you're seeing these zoning amendments. That is not to suggest that the zoning bylaw, when it is enacted, the new one will encapsulate every single nuance, because every lot is different. As you can see on the site plan, this one has a very unique shape. It is not likely that we will be able to envision every single nuance, but the take-home message is that when we do our new zoning bylaw, we'll try to encapsulate as much as we can so that council or the Committee of Adjustment doesn't have to continually look at these revisions.
Great. Thank you, Trevor, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I was specifically concerned about two blocks within the development, one with 60% lot coverage and one with 53%. My recollection is that we have approved 60% lot coverage, but I'm not positive. I don't know if that was setting a precedent, but it talked to about backyard amenities, and I believe for the most part it indicated that there would still be availability for a homeowner to add a shed. But at 60% lot coverage, or even in some areas of our community where the lot coverage was much less, residents made a purchase and only found out later that they couldn't expand a builder's deck, which is, extremely small. You can barely fit a barbecue on it, or that they didn't have the availability to put on a shed. So I wanted to know, first of all, is there availability in those two blocks for them to have what we would call a reasonable 8 by 10 deck and a shed? And if not, that those things should be clearly laid out in the purchase agreement so that we don't end up with a very upset resident coming in and finding out they can't get a permit.
Through your worship, should council enact and pass the zoning bylaw, I will endeavor to inform the developer and their agent that council has concerns and wants to be assured that the zoning bylaw provisions are made adequately clear to any potential purchasers. What I have done in other municipalities is provide a general provision in the zoning bylaw whereby certain size of decks and or certain size of accessory buildings already have an automatic exemption under the zoning bylaw. So that's like garden sheds of 10 by 10. Who cares? If you want to do a 10 by 20 garage, okay, that's a little bit different. And that's how you get around having to do multiple minor variances like what we do today. So that would be something that we would propose in the new zoning bylaw, and hopefully we don't have to do it again for this particular development. Unfortunately, we don't have clairvoyance to know exactly what everybody's going to do on their lot, and we have to adjust and deal with that as it comes up.
Just to follow up on that too, is that I think now it's 15 by 15 shed without a permit. So, they, again, if 10 by 10 is the maximum, then, if that's clearly laid out, or, thank you. That, I will read the motion. that the recommendation report titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, file number Z07/22, to the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council meeting of September 28th, 2023 be received, that the bylaw, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for file number Z07/22 be brought forward to council for consideration, that Joint Committee of the Whole and Council approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z07/22 as recommended by town planning staff in this report dated September 28th, 2023. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Ego and Councillor DeLille, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Thank you. I'll just move to item 7.3.4 where Councillor Ego has requested to make a comment.
Thank you, and through you, the chair. I'm commenting in here on the upcoming European holiday market. It's just a comment that was in our notes here. And I just want to say I'm very pleased that I'm part of a subcommittee for this. It's a new venture for Wasaga Beach, and the staff have been working very, very hard on this. And what I'd like to do here is just have you imagine this setting where it's going to be this year. It's going to be outside at Oakview Woods, and the staff are painting or are designing a beautiful outdoor area for vendors. There will be red tents lining the way, there will be lights in the trees, there will be bonfires. So vendors will just have to show up with their wares and be there and be part of this really exciting venture that's happening. It was part of our priorities that we were hoping to have such a thing, and the town, and if you saw the Santa Claus parade float last year, well, they'll be coming from far and wide. Well, the same crew are working on this new venture. So with that, I would just like to say, so any vendors out there listening, or if you know of any vendors, you go to the town website, go to the town's page, and you'll contact them there. If not, my name is really easy to remember, Faye Ego. Go to my Facebook, and there will be a link there that will get you directly to the events group, and they will be on it with you in a heartbeat. Thank you.
Sorry, what was your name, Councillor?
Sorry, did I see your hand? Did I see your hand up, Mayor? No. Okay. With that, I'll turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Snell for general government.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. Stop. Okay, so I'll now review the General Government Business Unit of the Committee of the Whole. I'm aware that one item has been pulled, 7.4.5. Before voting on the consent recommendation, would anyone like to make a comment on any items? Seeing none. Resolved that the General Government section of Committee of the Whole hereby receive the September 28th, 2023 consent list item 7.4, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding agenda items pulled from the motion and voted on separately. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Mayor Smith and Councillor Ego, all those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. So 7.4.5 is a Deputy CAO Director of Special Projects report dated September 14th, 2023 regarding the GMHL Junior A Wasaga Beach hockey team. This item was pulled by Councillor Ego, if you wanted to, and also Councillor Blanchet. Councillor Ego, did you want to go first, and then Councillor Blanchet? No, really, I was just a comment, so I'm fine, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Blanchet.
Yes, thank you. I've received a couple of emails about the GMHL League, and we heard from a resident earlier it being referred to an outlaw league. After I got a couple of emails, one I believe from the resident that was here today, I had a long discussion with our deputy CAO, and I think that many of his comments would be well-served to be public, so I'll turn it over to our Deputy CAO.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Yes, so Councillor Belanger called me last night, but staff have been looking at this since December of last year, and so we did a lot of research into a junior hockey team. We knew it was important to council, important to the community, and with the new rink, of course, some interest across the province. So we did look seriously at the OHA opportunities with the Junior C, Junior B, Junior A. None of those are viable options. The Junior C teams are, the league's not looking to expand. There's a couple of teams purported to be for sale, so we reached out to those folks to find out if they were in fact for sale and if they were interested in coming to the beach. Both teams decided they weren't selling, they're going to stay at their home communities. We're a little too far out for the Junior B League from southwestern Ontario. The Junior B League's basically, down in that southwest end, and we're a little too far out, and they weren't looking to expand. And of course, from the Junior A perspective, there's territorial rights in play and league rights in play as well that bumped into. So we did go beyond that, though. We looked at the Northern Ontario Hockey League that comes as far south as Powassan, I think it was. And we asked them if they'd be interested in coming a little further south, from if they're going to Parry Sound, Powassan area, could come up here. But we, again, territorial rights kind of blocked that conversation from going on. So from the GMHL perspective, it was interesting for us. They actually approached the last term of council in September of last year, just before the election, and wanted to have a conversation about coming to town. But of course, the election came, and that kind of transitioned through. So that conversation never did come up. So, anyways, it resurrected again. They contacted staff early in the new year. So I did chat with them. We did have a good look at it. They've been around for 17 years. They have some 900 players have graduated to higher levels of hockey, Canadian University, NCAA Division III, OHL, Quebec Major Junior, and of course U.S. and European Professional Hockey League. So they graduated a number of players for sure. Also checked into Meaford. Meaford's been in the league for 10 years. They're happy. The league's happy. Town's happy with Meaford. We checked with West Nipissing, because that's my back in the yard, born and raised in North Bay and having lived in Sturgeon for a while where they play. So I talked to the coach, had a good interview there. I checked with some of my family members who actually attend those games and love the hockey, and they had high praise. We checked with Temiskaming as well, which is on the Quebec side, over in the North Bay area, same results. And what was interesting to me is ownership matters, and the owners of the proposed owners of this new team would be the same owners that own the Bradford Rattlers. And Bradford's been the cream of the crop of that league for a number of years now. So that's the ownership group looking to come to town. So I did check with some of the politicians there, Mayor Leduc, and Mayor Leduc of Bradford couldn't have enough good things to say about the teams in terms of community involvement, getting engaged with the food bank, donating coaching hours to minor hockey. So they're quite involved and quite impressive. So that left council or staff, in a pretty good position to really understand this league and what they're bringing to town. So certainly, if we look at it from a win-win-win situation, we've got from a town business perspective, we've got a tenant looking to come to town for a 3-year contract. Not looking for any concessions, any discounts, full rates and everything they want to do. And so we checked there, of course, with their league and their capabilities. And of course, Bradford said, hey, these guys pay on time, they pay all their bills, never been a problem for the community in any way, shape, or form. So that worked out well. For us, they're a team that wants to be here. They've been chasing us for a while. They're attracted, they're excited to come. And to the point where they've, I can't disclose the name, but a local coach that's available here that's highly recognized, they're looking at bringing in to coach. So ownership solid, looks like the coaching team's solid. So I think it's a win-win. I think the residents will enjoy the hockey. I went down and personally saw some games. I followed them in the playoffs last year. I went to some games this year. The Southern Division's a little bit weaker. They're kind of Junior C to Junior B caliber, but still good hockey. But certainly any of those teams could play at the Junior C level. The top teams, Junior B. The Northern Division's a little stronger, and that's where we would be. The bottom division of that division could play Junior B hockey. The top areas can compete at the Junior A level without a doubt. So some good hockey there, some great talent. You know, there's a European presence there for sure. But the teams do like to bring in local players. If you happen to look at that Sturgeon Falls teams, you know, 7 or 8 of those kids are from town, and that's what we want as well. So the kids have a place to play hockey, and you know, hometown fans like to watch hometown kids, so that opportunity exists as well. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot flyby, if you will.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Deputy Mayor and then to Councillor Eagle.
I'm chairing. I forgot.
I said Deputy Mayor first.
No, I'm chairing.
She's chair?
It's okay. Anyways.
Okay, I thought I was doing the whole thing today.
Councillor Blanchet, you have no further comments or questions? Okay, no follow-up? Yes?
So my only other, to add to your very comprehensive information was, I think the venue is also something that is attractive to people. Like, we are a new facility. People are going to want to see the facility as well as the hockey. But I've certainly watched hockey in a number of arenas, and they're not all created equal. So I think this is going to be just a fantastic venue to watch a higher caliber of hockey than what's been here in the past. So thank you.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yes, thank you through you to Councilor Boulanger. So certainly ownership matters, right? So I mean, if whether you're in OHA or non-sanctioned leagues or whatever the case may be, if you need good quality coaches and good quality ownership, you know, there's some very weak teams in the OHA. Why? Because they don't attract top caliber coaching, top caliber players. So you got some teams didn't win a game last year. So the mix matters, and that's why. From my perspective, that ownership group coming in with the coach they have in mind, it matters a lot, and it made a difference in my perspective of what opportunity that brought to the table. Because if you have good ownership and good coaching, you get good talent. Therefore, everybody's filling the rink to cheer on some good hockey. So I see nothing but upside here.
Thank you, Deputy CAO. I'll move to Mayor Smith and then Councillor Eco.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So through you to our Deputy CAO, Jerry, my understanding is, I mean, there was conversations with other teams and other leagues out there, and we just couldn't pull those together for whatever reason, whether that be the league wouldn't have other teams or that the ownership of the teams couldn't agree that who should have what. So it's not like we've overlooked that. That's where we started, and here's where we've ended. And not that that's a bad thing. My other understanding is in researching these types of teams, and yes, I know that they're often referred to as the outlaw teams because they just don't belong to the OHL or the CHL. But these teams do produce, as I understand it, NHL quality players that go on to the NHL or go on to the European League, much as the OHL or the CHL does. Is that correct?
Yeah, the OHL, certainly a caliber higher than that, would have a lot more players attending at that level. But the GMHL has had players arrive in the NHL and play in the NHL. So, you know, it's a long path from you know, Junior A through the OHL to the American League to the NHL. But they've gone that path and they've got there. And I guess one of the things, you know, the outlaw tag is kind of a misnomer. You've been around for 19 years. You're doing something right. You don't just stick around for 19 years when you're doing something wrong. But if you look at the British Columbia Junior Hockey League, they all left the Canadian Hockey Association, right? So that whole province, that whole thing would deem to be, I guess in some people's terms, outlaw. But they're not. They're good hockey. These are hockey people. The president of the GMHL, you know, played for the Edmonton Oilers. He's a hockey guy. He believes in hockey. He loves hockey. He's been there. He was the captain of the Sudbury Wolves. Like, these are hockey people. And just because you're not part of this group doesn't mean you're a weaker hockey person or a weaker passion or weaker capabilities of putting good product on the ice.
And Mr. CEO, or Deputy CEO, can you just tell us a little bit about your history in hockey? Because I think, I asked that because I think it's important for folks to know that we haven't got a layman out here looking at this, if you will, that there's someone who has some experience.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, certainly I've gone through the minor hockey ranks and coached, you know, midget AAA level. I've coached Barrie Colts at the Junior B level, Penetang Kings at the Junior C level, and Junior A hockey out in Vancouver. So I've been around. I'm not foreign to the game, and I still have the pleasures of watching my grandsons play at that AAA level. So still, while I'm not behind the bench, I'm still in the rink watching.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Councillor Ego?
Thank you, Chair. Mine was just a simple question here, and thank you for your report, Jerry. It was really good. Do you know what will the price of a ticket be for a game?
Right now, their league's charging $10 a game, so they are affordable, economical for municipalities. Whereas a lot of the OGHL teams around are at $30, about 3 times that price point. So it's a nice price point, which makes it family friendly as well.
Any other further questions? Okay, just had a comment myself. I had the privilege of working for the Meaford Knights one season as their marketing person. And I can speak directly in terms of the billeting, right? And what it does in the community when, especially when a lot of the players are coming from out of province, out of country, and being embraced into a community and being hosted by local families. They were a part of the Christmas parade. They did fundraising. They were very, very active, very present, and it was a great opportunity for the community to really get behind as well. There was a lot of sponsorship opportunities and advertising through their promotional guide and their events as well were very well attended. So I agree. Like if we've exhausted all other options, I don't think that this is a negative whatsoever. I think it'll be great for the community, and especially the fact that they're not asking for anything extra. They're coming. They're paying full pop. And going to be a solid tenant for our new facility. So thank you for the work and bringing this forward. So if there's no further questions, I'll read the motion that the report titled GMHL Junior A Wasaga Beach Hockey Team to the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council meeting of June 8th, 2023 be received, and that the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council direct staff to execute an agreement with the Greater Metro Hockey League, GMHL, substantially in the form as drafted in Appendix A. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor DeLeo and Councillor Blanchet, all those in favor? And that carries unanimously. So this concludes the General Government Business Unit of the Committee of the Whole, and I'll now pass the chair back to Mayor Smith for the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Deputy Mayor Snell, just going to look to our clerk. I think we just had a break, so I think we could probably look at waiving the 30-minute break. Do you have a resolution for that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I propose the following motion, that Joint Committee of the Whole and Council waive Section 4.04B of the procedural bylaw, and that the Committee of the Whole session immediately move into Council to receive a report on the proceedings of the Committee of Whole.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of Council, you've heard the question. Any questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor DeLeo and Councillor Ego, all in favor? That motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to item number 8 in the agenda, the rise and move into Council. 8.1, rise recommendation. Go ahead.
Your Worship, you can go to 9, Section 9.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, Council session. It is resolved that the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole sessions for the meeting of September 28, 2023 be adopted as resolutions of Council. Questions or comments? Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ego, seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 10, the consent list. It is resolved that the Council session of the Joint Committee of the Whole and Council hereby receive the September 28, 2023 consent list items 10, and that all recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding agenda items pulled from the motion and voted on separately. And there's been nothing pulled at this time. Does anyone wish to pull anything? All right, seeing nobody, you've heard the question. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to...
Sorry, Your Worship. I believe that Deputy Mayor Snell had a comment on the bylaw.
Oh, I didn't see her hand, but of course she was...
Pertaining to the emergency response? To the emergency response plan, I believe. There's a comment.
Right, Deputy Mayor Snell, did you have a comment on the emergency response plan?
Yes, I just wanted to ask the Chief to be able to speak to it in regards to that, just so that it can be publicly shared, please.
Chief?
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. So on the agenda today, we have a bylaw with an explanatory note, and the reason for it being placed on the bylaw is we have some housekeeping items to take care of today. The bylaw covers a number of different things, but its primary purpose is to ensure compliance with the Ontario Emergency Management. So each year we must submit documentation that the town has an emergency response plan, that it has an emergency management program, that it operates an emergency operations center with needed. And what this bylaw before you does is it establishes all those things through council so that when we make our compliance a little later on this year to the province, we'll ensure that we have compliance. And finally, in the spring, I'll be bringing back a report to council that will illustrate that for you.
All right, any further comments, Deputy Mayor Snell?
Yeah, I thank you very much, Your Worship, through you. I just wanted to commend you, Chief, in this. You know, we clearly saw with the unsanctioned rally the importance of this plan and the tactics and strategies. So thank you very much for your work in bringing this forward and making sure that we're compliant.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. It's a great comment. What I can assure the good folks of our community is that our chief, who is also in charge of emergency preparedness and so on, is on the ball, and that we're in great shape and well looked after. So thank you as well, Chief, and to the rest of the staff as well. All right, you've heard the question. If there's no other further comments, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, second by Councillor Eagle. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 11, council requested staff reports. We have none at this time. Moving on to item 12, notices of motion. We have none at this time. And then 13, closed session is our next part of the meeting, and we have a resolution resolved that pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the September 28th, 2023 Joint Committee of the Whole and Council meeting will move to closed session to consider the following matters: a land sale matter, an education matter. Questions or comments? We have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That motion also carries, and we'll now go into closed session. Thank you very much, Chris. And again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. We've just finished our closed session, and we'll do a rise and report that will come from our clerk. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council entered closed session at 12:21 p.m. to discuss the following matters. Item 13.1.1, a land sale matter pursuant to Section 239(2)C, and item 13.1.2, education matter pursuant to Section 239(2)I of the Municipal Act. As a result of these discussions, staff direction was provided in accordance with the Municipal Act. Council also did receive the closed session minutes of September 14th, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And moving on to item number 14, confirmatory bylaw 14.1. Resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Thursday, September 28, 2023, be received and be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered number 2023-101. Any questions or comments from Council? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Eagle, Councillor Belanger, all in favour? That motion carries unanimously, and this meeting is adjourned.